All right, so we are live now, and we're just gonna wait for some people to trickle in, to come in. I see Kimura-san's here, and also Sachiko Miyagi has just popped on. So we're just gonna wait a couple minutes, and as we wait, we're gonna play a little bit of some rock music. You know, pretty fitting for Shochu Rocks. And as that music is playing for about 4 to 5 minutes, we're gonna go through a couple slides just on the screen and let everybody come in, okay? And then we'll go through a little bit of an introduction, and then Uno-san will take it from there after that. So just hang tight, guys. It's enough time for people to pop on. And we have a lot of people joining us today from all parts of the world. So Seattle, Connecticut, Mexico, Los Angeles, And then Jaymee is joining from New Jersey. So Jaymee is our guest for today, Jaymee Mandeville. So before I get into that, I just want to let you guys know really quickly that there is a chat function on Zoom if you haven't already found it. And just make sure you're typing it to all panelists and attendees so then everybody can see what you're typing. Right now, I think a lot of people are just typing to the panelists only. So, you know, you're a gift to the world. Tell everybody where you're from. Let's see. There's also a Q&A function if you haven't seen it already. If you're on Zoom on your computer, you'll see it at the bottom of your toolbar there. So feel free to utilize that. And Janet already asked a question, so could you go back to the first screen? Don't worry about that, Janet. It was all very introductory stuff, and we'll also have a recording of this to send to you guys after. And just to introduce myself really quickly, my name is Ida Vong. I am a sake specialist, and I currently work for Mutual Trading, but I do also help with Sake School of America from time to time. You might have seen some of my articles called Sake Splash floating around, and I will shamelessly plug that in the chat for you guys. And really quickly, I'm going to give you an overview of how everything is going to go today. So we'll have a little bit of maybe a 10 to 15-minute intro, which Ueno-san will provide for us. So he's going to talk about shochu, how it's made, and then a little bit of the specifics of the two shochu we are showcasing today. And then after that, our amazing guest, Jaymee Mandeville, she is the Trade Education Director for Bacardi. She is going to be making 2 unique cocktails for us. And then we'll have a little bit of a Q&A. And then we also have a chance for somebody to win the Shochu Advisor class today for free from Sake School of America. So we'll have a quick, I believe, 4-question quiz at the end. And whoever gets them all right will win the free class. Then we'll have our kind of conclusion and then goodbyes. All right, so Ueno-san, Toshio Ueno-san will take it away from here.
Hello, everyone. I'm so excited and delighted to host this Shochu Promotion Live seminar series with, our rock star, like Jaymee Mandeville. I'll be briefly lecturing on shochu fundamentals, and this project manager, Ida Bang, just explained, and Jaymee-san's going to be presenting how shochu can be incorporated into cocktail. Okay, let's start. Before that, here's let me introduce Jaymee-san. Jaymee-san, I know Jaymee for about, I think, more than 5 years. She's, it was introduced, Trade Education Director for Bacardi. And she's been doing lots of seminar, conference, and events. And she did a lot in Tales of Cocktail. And she has supported mutual trading companies Expo for a few years. And she's an international spirit competition judge for more than 6 years, I think. Correct?
That's how we met, yes.
Okay, here's Jaymee-san, 1 word from you.
Sure, I'm really excited to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me onto this show. I have also been exploring shochu. I was a bartender for about 10 years in Los Angeles, and then moved into a brand ambassador role. So I spend a lot of time now with our master distillers going through the process, where they get their raw materials from, their fermentation, distillation, and aging process. And honestly, I feel like with shochu, I've just scratched the surface with it, but the best thing about it is to play around with it. And I'm learning so much from all of you guys. I just started the course. I'm almost halfway through it. So this is a really exciting thing that you guys are doing. A, that you're offering free education, and B, the opportunity in this form, and B, the opportunity to go ahead and get accreditation on shochu and sake. So great experience, great opportunity. I'm excited to show you kind of what I've been playing around with in the cocktail space today. Thank you.
Thank you, Jamie. You know, she's really, really busy. She's doing all of the education for Bacardi, and she was, you know, she's a night and day and late night, you know, in online courses. She's a really professional here. Well, let's start with Shochu fundamentals, okay? As it was in the first session, first few slides, you know, Shochu is a Japanese craft spirit, and it's not brewed, it's a distilled spirit using koji. It has to be made with koji mold. And authentic Shochu is only distilled only once by pot still. And main ingredients are sweet potato, barley, rice, brown sugar, and buckwheat, which we are tasting today. And you know, there are so many others, but these 5 are major ones. Okay. And history of Shochu is about since 14th century, but only the text we see, the evidence we see in Kyushu was from 1559. Two of the brothers was doing a construction for temples, and they, you know, they complained about the monkeys not serving shochu to them. So there was a graffiti under the roof saying he was stingy. So that was only, so it was 1559, so 16th century. Well, most of the shochu is made in Kyushu and Okinawa. As you can see on the screen, about 77% of the makers are located in Kyushu Island. You know where the Kyushu is in this map. And the largest numbers are Kagoshima. Next one is Kumamoto is the next one. So you can see how many in those Kyushu Islands. And why it's a Kyushu Island? Because they are close to Okinawa. Okinawa is the origin of shochu. Shochu name, we don't call them shochu, we call them awamori, is believed to be the origin of shochu. And also Kyushu region is, you know, it's warmer climate, and also rice, it was really hard to harvest, especially in the southern tip of Kagoshima regions. And it is, you know, often, do you know, we have lots of typhoon, which is hurricane in here, and it is hit by hurricane lots of times. So when you're growing rice, it was really hard. And unless we are talking about the other side, the west side of places like Kumamoto was protected by mountains. Okay. Well, shochu is shochu and sake is very unique, as you know. The fermentation is different because wine is a single fermentation because it has the grape has a sugar, so it's simple one fermentation. And beer is similar to sake because it's a multiple fermentation because malts produce enzymes, and enzyme will convert the starch to sugar. But for sake and shochu, it's a little bit different because the conversion of starch to sugar and conversion of yeast digesting starch sugar to alcohol, that's happening in the same tank at the same time. So we call them multiple parallel fermentation. This is how it looks. So for beer, it's, you know, mostly Western world, they use malt. Malt is barley. When the barley sprout, the inside of the grain produce enzyme and breaking down that starch to sugar. And then in a different tank, you put that sugary liquid and put the yeast and start fermenting. But for sake and shochu, those conversion of starch, saccharification and alcohol fermentation happens in the same tank at the same time. So we call them multiple parallel fermentation, quickly. And those, you know, the mold we use, we call them koji. And we have 3 types, but mainly for shochu is kuro koji, and kuro koji in kuro means black koji, and also a shiro koji. Shiro koji is a white koji, and white koji is a, you know, mutation coming from black koji. And Dr. Kawachi was trying to find high enzyme active spore, and he found white one, and he took it out and started inoculating by itself, and it's got produced a much cleaner, smooth taste. That's why it got popular. So there are more shirokoji, white koji, shochus, and black koji, but black koji is coming back because people start liking savory, earthy, complex, rich flavor. So kurokoji, number one shochu in Japan is a kurokoji sweet potato now. But of course, yellow koji shochu exists too. Yellow koji is mainly used for sake and miso soy sauce, surprisingly. Sometimes vinegar too. And another thing you should notice, kurokoji, if you put the kurokoji and irokoji in the same place, do you think black koji is stronger? No, yellow koji is stronger. Yellow koji overpowers black koji actually. So something you should know. And I mentioned shochu, authentic shochu is only distilled once, okay, by pot still. And also, I have to mention this is that mash before distillation, as a sake can go up to 21%. The shochu is very high too, because and that's the reason why sake has more original ingredient flavor in the shochu liquid, because it doesn't have to distill so much. The reason this is the comparison, because brandy and whiskey mash usually it's between 8% and 10%, right? But shochu mash is usually 70% or higher, meaning it's easy to evaporate, okay? And it's one-time distillation is very hard. So that's why I said shochu is a craft artisan spirits comparing to doing a continuous bottle distillation on the left. And then there's a new technique that just came, it's being used for a while. You know, atmospheric is a regular normal pressure in the pot still, but the new one came out, reduced pressure or vacuum pressure, single pot. And when you go up to the high mountain, the pressure goes lower, so your boiling point, temperature point, boiling temperature point is lower. So, and so that it doesn't damage or it doesn't heat, burn the mash so much. So it gives you much cleaner and more light aromatic shochu. Okay.
Really quickly, we have a question from Bruce Ryan. When you distill shochu from mash, is the mash always left as Genshu, or is it ever diluted pre-distillation? This is in the chat.
So, before distillation, is he talking about before distillation?
When you distill shochu from mash, is the mash always left as Genshu, or is it ever diluted pre-distillation?
Okay. The mash after distillation, you are not using that. So distilled spirits you use, but the leftover in a tank would be thrown away. Or they can be reused, but most of the time they don't use them. They take it out. Good. Okay, next. The first shochu is Towari. Towari means 100% or tenths of 10. 100% made with buckwheat koji. This is rare because you know, soba buckwheat grain is really hard, so it was really hard to propagate that kojimo onto the soba buckwheat grain, and because you have to shave it, but once you shave it, it's very brittle. It's really easy to break because of the structure of the soba. But you know, Takara and other companies start becoming able to make koji instead of rice. Rice was usually used for making koji, but they did develop this 100% buckwheat koji. So, and it is using white koji, and it's of course single distillation, but they are a blend of atmospheric and vacuum distillation. And alcohol is 25, and it's coming from Miyazaki Prefecture. You can see it on the map. And let's smell it. It has a really, really savory, smoky, and nutty. It smells like almost like a peanut. And yeah, peanut and some other nuts and smokiness is in there. And at the same time, a little bit of grassiness too. And this is really you know, sometimes it can be a little bit more complex, a little bit more earthy, but this one is easier to drink, but it's kind of different types from other shochu. And the best things to pair with would be pork meat, smoked dish. The best one I ever had this with was unagi with sansho pepper on it, or kakuni, pork would be good. And yeah, those are the ones that are really good. So barbecue for a Western dish would be good. Okay.
Really quickly, is the buckwheat raw or roasted? Is the buckwheat raw or roasted?
Okay. When the koji is not roasted, but some of the steamed one later on added, it's both. Little bit toasted one and not untoasted one. I don't know that the percentage of cepage of the ratio of that combination. Okay. Next one is Satsuma Kuradashi Genshu. As you know, this word Kuradashi, kura means a factory or a distiller, and it's coming from Satsuma Shuzo. Genshu, I'm pretty sure most of you studied sake. Genshu means undiluted. Okay, so it's a cask strength. So the last one's 25, this one is 37%. And it's made with sweet potato, but using rice koji. Okay. And this is from Kagoshima, of course. You know, most of that Kagoshima is very well known for sweet potato. Okay. Same as soba is very famous in Miyazaki and also Nagano regions in central highlands of Japan. This one has much more fruity, floral, sweet. Of course, it has a toasted or roasted imo, sweet potato smells, and also it has really nice rose petal smell, and a little bit of apricot and some overripe plum, and some earthy savoriness too. Much bigger structure, higher alcohol, more depth, complexities there. It's very nice. You know, this kind of type is depending on the dilution, but it can go well with so many food comparing to the soba. It can go from light dish to medium to heavy, but mainly from medium to more flavorful dish. And Satsuma is very famous for many meats and also some fish too, but pork is very famous, chicken is famous, and also Kagoshima has a beef too, Wagyu beef too. So all this goes well, okay? And it's come from Kagoshima. Any questions? Okay. Now, it's Jaymee's time.
All right, and like get my setup over here. Welcome to my home makeshift bar over here. Yeah, I can't wait to get back out into bars and restaurants. But you know, a lot of what I've been doing at home is spending some time creating.
Sorry, Jaymee, can you unmute really quick? There we go.
All right, so I'm gonna make a couple of cocktails for you. Like I said, this is like my home makeshift bar. It was like overcast all day today, and then all of a sudden like the sun started coming through. I'm like, all right, we'll get this fixed up. But the first shochu that I'm gonna work with is the Towari, the buckwheat one. I was really excited to try this one. I've tried a couple other ones that are similar to this in buckwheat, but it's really, it has a funky taste to it. It's really exciting. It reminds me of a lot of Martinique rums that has that funk and earth to it, or even some scotch that definitely pulls from terroir. So I really want to celebrate the spirit and not overshadow it with too many flavors. I love highballs, one of my favorite cocktails, I think. I mean, I spend about 70, or I did, I guess, up until we quarantined, I did spend about 75% of my time on the road, everywhere throughout North America and also internationally, maybe like 4 to 5 times a year. As I mentioned, I do go to a lot of our distilleries that Bacardi owns year after year. I'm just gonna go ahead and drain off this water first. Toshio, your friend was nice enough to send me some beautiful ice from Kuramoto Ice Company, so thank you so much for that. Always, when making cocktails, if you're starting with proper tools, you're starting with fresh and proper ingredients, it makes all the difference. So, with that, like I said, I'm gonna go ahead and let this be the star. So this is a highball. It's meant to just be something refreshing to start off and open up your palate. It's also something that you can consume with food because it is a little bit lower proof. Sometimes I get people that ask me all the time, like, why is it that when I do pairings with cocktails, it's so much harder, meaning doing food pairings with it? And a lot of times it's because our palates react to the higher ABV, and it's a little more difficult to take in those nuanced flavor profiles. So I wanted to really celebrate where's my camera? Make sure we get this in here. Celebrate the umami flavors of the shochu. So we are playing around with a little bit of like sweet, salty, sour, a little bit of bitterness as well. So in that kind of sour note, we're just gonna start off with some fresh lemon juice to add to it. Doing a 1/2 ounce. And with lemon juice, like I juiced this, I guess late last night, but it usually has a good shelf life for 2 days, and then it starts to oxidize, so we'll just start to sweeten a little bit. We are gonna balance that out with a little honey syrup, and always with mixing cocktails, it's really hard if you're just gonna try and incorporate honey in its form that you would buy it in because it starts to seize up with cold. So I did dilute this 2 to 1 water with honey. Just gonna go ahead and do 1/4 ounce there. And then in the spirit of umami, a little bit of sea salt to it, some Melvin salt that's gonna easily incorporate in. If you're using a different type of salt like kosher salt, it's going to be harder to incorporate in, so I would recommend perhaps like shaking that and incorporating it into the cocktail. So the highball cocktail is always going to be more of your modifier than your base spirit. So with that, we're going to go ahead and add 3 ounces of ginger beer to this. There are so many classic cocktails that are really formulated around this setup. There's, of course, like the Moscow Mule. Sometimes people will refer to them as bucks if they're using lemon juice like we are today versus lime juice. And sometimes you're just gonna go ahead and have a whiskey highball of just whiskey and soda. But in this case, we have the Towari Shochu, lemon, honey, sea salt, and then some ginger beer. And the biggest thing with cocktails and kind of doing simple cocktails, you want to accessorize them, right? You want to go ahead and like make sure that everything is an experience. So from how you're nosing the cocktail to how you're enjoying it at every level. So we're going to go ahead and take, I have a few cucumbers here. I wish I had like larger ones. It's been interesting, like just moving like before quarantine. I'm still getting used to my own neighborhood too and finding things to go along. So I like to do like just an internal glass garnish here to add some color, and also as you enjoy the highball, that cucumber is going to brighten up the flavors, freshen it up a little bit, and it's going to elevate your experience as you go along. And then from there, just to kind of accent, just a little bit of seaweed on top to be enjoyed as you drink the cocktail, before you drink the cocktail. Always food, eating, and drinking are a perfect marriage together. So with that, we have the umami highball.
And that's just like a roasted piece of seaweed?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And it just gives you texture. You know, think about like when you go to like a bar, right? You're always going to get bar snacks, whether that's like, you know, salted peanuts or little crisps. It's also one of those things where it's really smart of bar owners, right? Because the more salty food that you consume, the more that you want to drink, right? So good tactics there. So cheers. Shall we move on to the next cocktail, or does anybody have any questions about this one? Or any ways that you like to enjoy the Towari Shochu? Yes. I'm like, my computer's really far away. I'm like, trying to.
So Bruce Ryan asks, if you were going for umami, have you tried using ajinomoto instead of salt, or would that be too much?
You know, if you are doing that, I would recommend, like, I just used a little bit of sea salt. So it's one of those things that you could dilute and put into a solution, like adding water to it. Always like think about, as you're adding flavor, how you can like add the right amount, and you can always appropriate it by dilution of water.
And Mark Goldberg says, Jaymee, I'm sending my drone over to pick that up.
Right, we'll have it like right here, okay? How long? And you know, it's one of those things, I guess the past couple of months, I've been really reflective about how it's gonna be, you know, not that I can completely project and look into the crystal ball and say how all of the bars are gonna be and the trends that we're gonna see. But there is, you know, a little bit of thought going into how bars are re-strategizing and how we're going to be open during this time. And so it is about doing simple cocktails, using what you have on hand. I love taking things that are like easily accessible and then just like turning them up a notch through garnish and exploring them a bit more. So.
And Maya asks, what is the final alcohol percentage of that cocktail, approximately?
Ooh, we're gonna do math. Interesting. I'm a child of technology on this one. So I guess, so we use 2 ounces. This is 25% alcohol on it. Someone help me out with math on it. It's really gonna be about half the ABV of what you would normally drink. So maybe something that, as if you were drinking like a 13% beer. Pretty like, you know, like a higher, like a Belgian beer, around that same.
Okay, Buenos Aires, yeah, that's about right. Okay.
Weird math going on, sorry.
I know, math is difficult, sorry. We just know alcohol, so. All right, great.
Stereotype today.
Yeah. But I love that you use all these like on-hand ingredients, like especially if you're at a Japanese restaurant. They already have cucumber, they have roasted seaweed.
And it's, you know, I always feel like with cocktail recipes, you should look at them as, you know, a building block, right? It's kind of like a boilerplate recipe. So you can incorporate whatever you have on hand. If you don't have lemon juice, use lime juice. If you don't have ginger beer, you can use ginger ale. You're just going to go ahead and like, you know, be your own taste tester, which is one of the best things about bartending, is creating, tasting, remaking, and you know, it's part of the R&D process, which is amazing. I also like, you know, garnishing highballs. Like I like a little bit of fire in my cocktails, which we'll get into with the next cocktail. because I really just like to function on all, you know, cylinders as far as taste buds. So also, you know, just highlighting the ginger even more with a candied ginger garnish is another direction that you could go with this. So it's, you know, as far as drinks, they're a canvas, so you can play around with it. There's always a proportion in place. So I did use 2 ounces of this, and I played around actually with it, and I mostly that I wanted to keep the ABV a little bit, you know, still sessionable but noticeable in the cocktail. But with the Towari, the flavor profile, it's amazing how much it enhances with water that's added. I thought it would scale back a little bit, but some of those like really roasted, toasty notes just popped out with dilution and carbonation. So.
Wow, I love your thoughts on that. Yeah, so everybody, I hope you're taking notes for your next cocktail, but we'd definitely love to see your next cocktail.
Yes. So my next one, I love martinis. It's a, you know, simple, classic cocktail. You know, always a good time for a martini as a palate cleanser, as I even like them at the end of the night. And because I travel a lot and therefore I'm out at bars and drink often, I also like to kind of, you know, mitigate some of my cocktail drinking and the ABV of things. So I like to drink 50-50 martinis. You know, I'm not that person that's asking for a vodka or gin martini, no vermouth. I would be like, you know, horizontal in a matter of moments. So I do enjoy vermouth. First of all, I enjoy the flavor profile of it, but I also enjoy having a cocktail that's a little bit lower ABV. So, but actually with that, this is an interesting Shochu. When I received this one, I was like, wow, it's 37%. Like I was really excited to try it, but the flavors are really delicate, really developed. I wanted, again, to highlight the flavor profile on this as well. I'm gonna move my glass there. And so we're gonna go ahead and stir this martini with some ice. Okay. The great thing about martini, really easy to build, really easy to kind of put your own spin on it as well. So again, with our shochu, I'm going to start off with a nice generous 2 ounces. And then I worked with a couple of vermouths in my portfolio, one of them being Martini and Rossi from Passione, Italy. I love their Bianco. It's created in 1910. It's actually the most popular vermouth in Italy. Sometimes people think it's always the red, the rouge, but for Martini, it's the Bianco. And tasting the Kuradashi Genshu, it has some floral notes to it. It also, to me, has like a little light chocolate, milk chocolate note to it as well. So I wanted to highlight that. And with the Bianco vermouth, and along with the 40 botanicals in it, vanilla is one of them. And so what I did is I infused it. I'm a big fan of Jamaica, where I make Jamaica tea. I order this in like bulk, but it's just dried hibiscus. So I let this sit with the vermouth just overnight. It didn't take too long to infuse, but just to accent those floral notes. And so we did 2 parts shochu. We're gonna go ahead and do 1 part of the hibiscus infused Bianco vermouth. And then another thing to excuse some of my bar tools in the move, we really had to decide what we were gonna move cross country. So I definitely gave a lot of my things away to bartenders, so don't mind my pipettes with bitters. If you're in a bar, this is not how I recommend your bartenders create them. But right now it's a little bit more about the science and measurement of it, and less about the fanfare. So thanks for bearing with me on that. But we're just gonna go ahead and do a couple dashes of orange bitters. And then, you know, I'm gonna give it a stir. So always with martinis, you know, they went through an era where everybody was shaping martinis and everyone wanted the glacier of ice on them. I say, like, if, you know, drink your martinis how you enjoy them, for sure. But every technique in bartending is, of course, to bring out the flavors in the best sort of way. So this is meant, stirring is meant to dilute, it's meant to chill, and it's meant to just incorporate the ingredients without bruising them. So that's why we're just gonna go ahead and do a gentle stir with it. And then pour this into our glass. I also, as we're going into, or we are in springtime, so you can notice kind of the theme and colors with my cocktails. I like bright colors with things. I think, you know, first off, we drink with our eyes, then we, like, you know, go through our nasal passages, and then it's really on the palate. So I'm very into the full experience, because it's what we do in hospitality, is try to create every element for people. So, and with that, I also like to incorporate texture into cocktails. So while we had the carbonation that really lifted the spirit, on this one, I'm actually gonna add a little bit of hatch chili oil on the top of it. So this will do a few things on top of bringing in just like a light spice to it. It's also, that nice oiliness is gonna go ahead and sit on the palate and go ahead and brighten some of the flavors that you get with the cocktail. I don't like trip myself across here. I'll bring it a little bit closer so that we can see how the oil sits on top of the cocktail here. So aroma, palate, everything really considered in this. I would suggest this as a great, it's a great food pairing. I know that you mentioned poultry, definitely like with those nice vanilla and fruit, like berry flavors from the hibiscus, it'll go really well, but it's also a great nightcap or a dessert cocktail that's not cloyingly sweet. I'm more of a savory person than a sweet person, so as far as what I'd like to, as far as what I like to eat. Perhaps personally too, I'm not sure. So cheers, everyone.
Cheers, that looks beautiful. Oh my God.
And that's your sweater. You should be drinking it.
Oh, I know, honestly. Can we get that drone to deliver over here? But I love that, you know, you're kind of creating like this experience and this story with the flavors, the colors, the presentation, everything. I think that's a mark of a great bartender, so.
Thank you. It's how we talk, you know, that when I listen to you guys talk about sake or shochu, it's the same thing. You talk about provenance, you talk about the people that make it, you talk about the history of it, and so everything correlates through the cocktail experience, through if you're a chef, the culinary experience of it. So, yeah. Yes,
absolutely. Did we have any questions on this one, or any questions in general?
Is the drone still coming?
The drone, I mean, I hope so. But well, everybody's saying that they love, it's beautiful. And I don't know. What would you say to people who are hesitant to put chili oil or something spicy into their cocktails?
Yeah, everybody has different spice levels for sure. So sometimes what I think is going to be spicy, other people are like, not even. But then things that I think are like, sometimes people think cinnamon is too spicy. So you're going to have to kind of give yourself the 1 to 10. And honestly, if you're one of those people like, I don't like spice at all, then you're not going to like it in your cocktail either, you know? So it is something that you can still get some of those nice notes from it. Like, you know, this drink can change around. You could go ahead and infuse olive oil with mint or basil and kind of get the same extra effect to it without adding spice and going more in a dry herbal direction with it.
That's amazing tips and tricks from a great bartender, guys. I've got to keep that in mind.
So play around with like things that you have. I try to use like ingredients that everybody has access to as well. So
yeah, I love that. I mean, I think one of the greatest hurdles for me to actually want to make a cocktail is if I have the ingredients or how hard are they to source. Mm-hmm. So, and let's see. Brooklyn Bain says, it sounds amazing. She loves the idea of incorporating an oil.
And like, you know, you definitely have these two. So you only need more ingredients, right?
Yes, that's true. That's true. And I really love how it looked great just on your shelf with the plants as well. So if you do decide to pick up those bottles, know that they can act as decor as well.
Yes, definitely.
Yes, and we also have a anonymous question. How would you present or sell shochu as a category to non-Japanese restaurants?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that, what we're seeing now is that there are a lot of, I guess, more, a lot of heritage spirits that are being exported into the US now. So everything from cachaça to pisco to grappa. So you're seeing people be a little bit more explorative. Yeah, I'm saying that right. Explorative as far as spirits go. So it's really about taking them on that adventure, taking them on the story and putting them in front of them. I feel like I'm still exploring so many of them because it can be made from so many different raw materials, between buckwheat to rice to sugarcane. So for me personally, I always draw to flavor profiles that I'm really used to. So sometimes I'll be like, oh, okay, well, the Towari is really more Scotch-like to me, where the Kuradashi is a little bit more gin-like to me. So sometimes drawing that parallel and really inviting people to do something outside the ordinary.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's about relating, to what people already know. So it's just kind of like a gateway for them. They're like, oh, I kind of get it. But if you're able to offer them a tasting, that will definitely kind of push them over the edge.
Yeah.
If anything else, I think it's something unique for a non-Japanese restaurant to have. And again, it's about educating your customers and kind of educating your staff to help, push that education as well and getting everybody excited for it.
Education is key. It's key, like with people like us in the industry, everybody is asking for more of it. And on the consumer side too, that's one of the things with quarantine, we've seen e-commerce exploding, but people still want the stories. They still want to find out and try new things, even if they're not sitting in front of their favorite bartender. So when you have more knowledge about these spirits, then it just makes it so much easier for people to trust you and want to try more of them.
Absolutely. Yeah. All right. So I think nobody else has been asking any questions. So I think we'll move straight on to the quiz. So about the quiz, we can offer the Shochu Advisor class to those who will be able to, I think, pick up the samples. Yes. Or if they're in the United States, we'll be able to ship it to them. So sorry, people who are outside of the United States. And then we'll be able to kind of smooth out all those details when we contact the winner. So right now we're gonna have the quiz. It's gonna be about 3 minutes long as the song will play for. And once we finish the quiz, we'll come back. We'll do a little bit of a kind of recap and conclusion, okay? All right. All right. So I think we'll probably have more than one. I think there's more than one person who probably answered everything correctly, but we will put all of the winners into a random draw, and then we'll pick one from there. And don't worry, Janet, if you couldn't scroll down to the second question, we'll have 3 other sessions for you to join and have a chance to win Shochu Advisor from. But once we have our winner for today, we will post it on the Sake School of America website, and then we will also email that winner. All right, and I believe Ueno-san wants to do the conclusion.
Well, thank you everyone for participating in this session, and I really appreciate Jaymee. You know, I am so glad she's here, and she's so professional how she shows a bottle every time in the correct way and do so professional, and I'm so glad she agreed to do this for us and for our industry. And so Jaymee-san, final words from you to the people who are in this beverage industry to you know, how they can utilize this shochu in where they work.
How they can, yeah. The first thing is that you need to drink more shochu, explore it. As we have such great resources, you know, go online, go onto like your guys' website, sit through more of these sessions and learn more about it. And then from there, like, you know, use these things as guides. Use your favorite cocktail as so there are no wrong ways. You just need to get out there and utilize it more and drink more of it. Right? This is what we should all be like, yes, drink more shochu. I'm having such a great time exploring through the diligence that's put into the production process. If you're a fermentation geek about things, like shochu is definitely for you to go down that rabbit hole of different kojis. So
great. And anyone last time to question us? If you don't have it, there's a thank you, Jaymee. Appreciate it so much. Arigato. And we're gonna have some announcement after this, and we're gonna have some slides showing you that there is one Discovery Channel is doing a Master Distillers contest. So I'll give you that information. After that, we'll give you a answers for this quiz. Thank you, Jaymee, and thank you, everyone. And watch until the end so that you know the answer and you get more information on the distillation competition by Discovery Channel. Bye, Jaymee. Thank you.
bye.
All right, that's it, everybody. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you.
All right. We'll be sending out the recording within a day or
Thank
so.
you, Jaymee.
Yes, thank
Jaymee,
you so much,
you.
Jaymee. Bye.
Bye, everyone.